Hey everybody, welcome to verifiedinvesting.com. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here. In today's video, we're going to look at XRP, Chainlink, and Hype because again, some key things are developing here in the charts that investors should know. All right, let's dive right into the charts and take a look. This is the XRP chart. I always like to start with no trend line so you guys can see how I arrive at the trend lines, what I'm essentially looking at. Now, first and foremost, we can see that XRP has made a higher high in recent months. You can see the high going back to January of 2025 was at $3.40. And then recently it went just above to $3.67 before this recent decline. Now, in all fairness, you can see the high here, and it did decline substantially going back into April. So if we look at a percentage decline basis, XRP had fallen all the way down, basically 50% before the latest move up. And that's pretty normal for cryptocurrencies to have these type of intra-cycle corrections, right? So in other words, in all fairness, if you look at where the high was here, what would be a 50% correction? You'd be looking at potential downside to about the 182 level before it would find that same sort of, let's say, next leg to the upside. All right, now, a couple things in the near term that I'm seeing on XRP. So the first thing is that we have low pivots and low pivots. Very obvious that we're seeing some support right in this range, right? In addition, if we look at this, you can see there's a gentle trend line that slopes up as well that connects from this high going back to March of 2025 to the high in May and then the low in August and also in September, early September. And so what I'm really focusing on is this trend line as being the trigger point for either a leapfrog and move back to the upside or a breakdown where we start tracking for that kind of 50% retrace. Now, along the way, there will be significant support. So just to show you guys, we should all expect there to be some support around 260 to 259, and then there'll be an additional major level around 232. And you can see again how I arrived at those levels of support. But right now, if you're a bull, you really want to see XRP hold this 275 daily closing level because again, this upsloping trend line, in fact, I'll flip it to a different color so it really stands out. But essentially, that's your level that you're monitoring for now. And if we could also put in a trend line here, very similarly, we have a downsloping trend line that's creating a little bit of a wedge pattern. You guys see that? So XRP right now, this would be looked at as a wedge pattern. The question starts to be asked or needs to be asked, which direction does it break? Does it break here to the upside, in which case you should go back to the recent highs and possibly even higher? In fact, I would argue you would go higher. Why do I say that? Well, just connect your previous two highs, right? So your next leg up, if you do get a breakout of a wedge to the upside, would take us to an upside target of approximately 375, right? And again, that's very simple. You know, again, no crazy math here, no calculus. Major high from January to major high from July. That would give us our major high potentially later in the year, October, November, wherever it may be. Now, if we do break to the downside, then to me, you have stopping points at 260 right here, another stopping point at 232. But in reality, we have to be cognizant that your downside could be very similar in terms of the previous pullback on XRP that would again take us to about that 50% level, which look at all these lows right through here. This would be the level where if you're a believer in XRP, you're buying here at this level, right? At the 190-ish, 185 level. Because number one, it would essentially give you that 50% pullback that we saw here before that next leg up. Number two, on a technical analysis basis, all of these lows basically stopped here. You briefly pierced here, but I mean, you never confirmed and you rallied right back up. Then you showed that you could hold that line, or XRP could hold that line here before moving up. Okay. Now, again, I would just say this on XRP, the rating that I would give it. So everyone always asks me, well, are you near-term bullish? Are you near-term bearish? I would rate this, believe it or not, a neutral because we're coming to the head of the wedge. And in other words, coming to the head means you're at a pressure cooker period where if it breaks out, it's going to leapfrog and just zoom up here. If it breaks down, it's going to go here and then likely down to this level below, and then obviously potentially here. So we have to see which way it breaks. Whichever way it breaks, I think that's your next major move. And likewise, like I did, in all fairness, we could remove these, right? So, I mean, if it breaks here, I think eventually it goes down to here. But you'll get bounces along the way at those previous levels. Just like if it breaks to the upside on the wedge, you'll have a little resistance here and a little resistance here. But essentially, a break out of the wedge probably sends it to that 375 level up here. So I guess, again, just keep in mind that if you break to the downside, there'll be stopping points for swing traders and day traders to play it as a bounce play. But eventually, you're looking at 190. And if you break to the upside, you'll have, quick short levels at like 313 and 335, let's say. But eventually, it goes up to the upside. All right, let's go to Hype here. Hype's an amazing chart, guys. I want to show you this. There's an upsloping, obvious trend line here. I'm going to throw this in yellow so we kind of have it pop out. This is your level to watch on Hype. And again, on a basis of resistance, what I'm actually focusing in on is right here. So you can see you briefly got above here, but notice you never confirmed the breakout. It was more of a fake out by bigger money. They just wanted to get a few more people long, and then it came in, and then it abided by the trend line later on in August, and then again here in late August, right? So early August, late August, kind of high. So what this is creating is what we would call an upsloping wedge, which again is a little bit nerve-wracking for investors. An upsloping wedge is never like this pattern is never as good as this type of wedge, right? A sideways wedge can really go this way or this way. An upsloping wedge, it can have brief periods above, but it usually breaks to the downside. So some good education on the different types of wedges that there are. Now, again, the thing with this chart is because it's an uptrend, all right, so low, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low. As long as it's an uptrend, there's probably a neutral to upside bias, but it's capped at around this $50, $51 level because that's where the trend line is showing us that there's significant resistance. Okay, now if it breaks here, basically if it breaks below like 43.50 or so, then it's going to have some problematic issues. You quickly fall to $40 and change, then probably to 35. And I would start looking for big support right in this range. Let me show you guys this range here that I have. And essentially what we would do is we would take this high area here and the lows. And I would say this would be your range where it starts to get interesting. You could even extend that out even as high as or as low as these lows. But essentially anywhere between $32 and $28, that becomes your big buy level for a move back up to the upside. But again, breaks the wedge to the downside below 43.50, I think I said. Then you'll have small stopping points along the way, but you're most likely headed down to $32 to $28 per coin. Same thing on the upside. You got to respect this resistance here at around 51. If you do break above it, you're in uncharted territory. So obviously it could go as high as it wants at that point. But the angle here is these steeper upsloping wedges, they tend to break to the downside about 70 to 75% of the time. So again, yes, it's in an uptrend. I know it's kind of confusing, right? Because it's in an uptrend. So, yes, it could stay in here and just kind of grind up a little by little. But at some point, the odds favor a breakdown and a retrace to 28. All right, Chainlink here, guys, real quick. Chainlink, if we zoom out on the chart, we can see that there is an interesting little development here on the chart. So number one, the baseline for where you start getting bullish again, if it ever does have a bear market, this would be around this area here. Look at this trend line. Beautiful long-term trend line at 11.5. Now, if you're a bull, you don't want to see it go down there. I get that. But I always like to put in the trend line just in case, right? It's always good for us to know. Now, the first thing I'm seeing is you can see this little pivot top right here around 27. 27 is a near-term resistance level. On a pullback, couple things I'm monitoring here. So down here, this $20 level on a pullback would be very substantial. This would be good support as well. And I'm just drawing in my trend lines with you guys. Okay, so it will obviously I'll break it down. But notice what we have going on here. You have this trend line, which is upsloping, merging with this level. On a swing trade basis, if we can get a pullback to about $20 to 19, I'm a buyer for at least a 10 to 15% move off of that level. That'd be a good little level. Falls, starts to get oversold into this high, into the upsloping, and it can get a big bounce because two trend lines together are better than one. All right, then on the upside, let's say it breaks out above here. Your upside target is around the 30.90 level or 31. That would be your next level to the upside. All right, so again, near term, I'm looking for downside on Chainlink only because, listen, it doesn't have to go down, but if it goes down to this 20 to 19 level, I'm looking to swing trade it to the long side. In terms of upside, if it comes up here and breaks out, I would consider a swing trade short at $31 on this chart of Chainlink. And again, very interesting to see here. By the way, one other thing I just want to point out, if you take this, see how this came down to this low and then rallied up and then pulled back there to a new low and then made the next bull move. Take that high, connect it right through here, and look at this, guys. See if we extend that out and this out. Look, those two are going to merge. So notice how the two trades that I'm giving you guys, okay, and we drag that out there. All right, so essentially, and again, I'm just going to bring it this way. Oop, not that line there. But essentially here, notice how this is a stopping point. I'm not trading here, so we could even get rid of it. And this is like bear market, like freeze on crypto right down here. But essentially, if price were to surge up into this level here, you expect a big pullback. Two trend lines crossing, boom. If price continues down right into this level, you expect a bounce like that. All right, so again, the beauty of this chart is to show you that you don't have to be a bull or a bear. You could just be neutral and trade the chart and make significant amounts of money. Now, again, there'll be people out there that say, oh, Chainlink's going to go to the moon. And then there's other people that say it's going to zero. I have no idea where it's going long term. I have no idea, honestly, where any of these cryptos are going long term. I'm just going to be honest with you guys, right? My job is to say no BS, which would be, oh, it's going to the moon, or oh, it's going to zero. Like, get rid of that BS. What is the chart telling us? No BS, just charts is what verified investing is all about. That's what I do in my service at Verified Investing, Smart Money Crypto. That's what my traders do. They focus on the charts. And by doing that, it doesn't mean we're always right. I certainly am not always right. But can I win 75% of the time, 80% of the time? Yeah, I can. And again, that service has a win. Actually, that service has a win rate of 96%. But I always like to say, people, that's almost like an anomaly. If you look at all my swing trades in stocks, commodities, and combine them all, I'm around 80%. I like to say 80% because it keeps people realistic, meaning that every 10 trades I take, I'll have 2 losers. But the math works out, right? It's like you become the casino, not the gambler. The gambler, when you walk into a casino, the odds favor you losing. They just do. But when you're the casino, yes, a gambler takes you for some money. I mean, we've all been to the casino and had a small win or a win at some point. But overall, if we go enough, guess what? We're all losing. And you don't want to be the gambler. You want to be the casino that consistently makes money and over the long term makes millions from trading. And the charts allow us to do that. So cool. So cool. All right, guys, I got to get going. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.